Hello, I'm Rob Saracen. I am the Director of Campus Programs for the San Francisco Campus for Jewish Living. Also, at the moment, I'm the Interim Administrator for our assisted living community called Frank Residences. I am a graduate of the CIIS Drama Therapy Program. I graduated in 1995, if I remember correctly. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a registered drama therapist. Have over 20 years experience working in healthcare. Have specialized in working mostly with older adults. Prior to coming to this organization, I worked for California Pacific Medical Center, now part of Sutter Health, for about 20 years, running a specialized care program for people living with dementia. That was a residential program within a medical center setting, so kind of unusual model. I came here in 2018, so I've been with this organization approximately 2 years. And my role is, depending on the day, it can be many different things. My current role as Director of Campus Programs is to oversee all of our life enrichment programming, which includes skilled nursing. We have an inpatient adult psychiatric unit. We have a residential care community that includes a large number of memory care apartments. So overall, San Francisco Campus for Jewish Living is actually the largest private nonprofit healthcare organization for older adults in the state of California. And we're the second largest provider of Medi-Cal services for long-term residential care in our skilled nursing in California. So our mission for the organization is quite simple. It's to enrich the lives of older adults. And our population is primarily older adults. We have roughly 400 people in our nursing home on any given day. Probably 2/3 are people living here full time. This becomes their long-term care home, their Medi-Cal recipients. It's a very wide, diverse mix of people of all walks of life, all faiths, all ethnicities, people with both medical and psychological or psychiatric conditions that need to live in a long-term care setting. Then we also have short-term rehab, which is even a wider mix of people. These would be people coming from a hospitalization from an acute care hospital setting, and they might only be here for a couple of weeks or less for rehab after maybe a fall or a fracture or a stroke. So we have intensive inpatient physical therapy, occupational therapy. Then we have a 12-bed adult psychiatric unit, which is also, again, a mixture of people, but it's generally speaking, it's what we would call a geriatric psych unit. So it's people that are typically over the age of 50. Who have a primary psychiatric diagnosis. That also is short-term. Then we have a large assisted living facility named Frank Residences that just opened, and that's 190 apartments or units, 77 of which are designated for people with dementia of various kinds, typically Alzheimer's disease, but there are other types of dementias as well. And then the assisted living part of that building is people that are, generally speaking, independent enough to have their own apartments, but they need varying levels of assistance as they progress in their age. So some of them are essentially independent, and other people need more assistance, maybe with other ADLs or what's called activities of daily living. And also embedded in all of that in our new building is what's called Buyer Square. It's a community center model. It's basically modeled to be like a Jewish community center, open to all. With a lot of diverse programming, arts and culture, fitness, wellness, educational. Because of COVID, we are not open to the public right now, but eventually we will be. So for now, that entire space serves as the life enrichment programming for the people living within the new community, the residents themselves. So the demographic is primarily people over the age of 65, but there are some outliers. And it's primarily, again, depending on which part of the campus, it's either people who are here fully funded through Medi-Cal or people who are paying privately to live in the assisted living. So it's a kind of a diverse portfolio of adult, senior adult housing and care. Right now, because of COVID, our internship program and structure has pivoted, like everybody's pivoted in the last year, to being slightly different than it was the first year that I started it, in the sense that we've had to bring in our interns this year as essential workers, and they've actually been paid a stipend, and that may continue, as long as COVID continues. But typically, an intern is not paid, but is here for supervision and practicum learning experience. And so their duties are a variety of things. I mean, the clinical work is basically working with all of these different populations and these different subsettings within the community, doing individual and group work. So we have typically a lot of drama therapy students, so they're focused on doing drama therapy groups and interventions, but we are absolutely open to taking CIS students that are in the somatics program or in the with the expressive arts program. There's a lot of different modalities that work with this population. We do typically a very full schedule every day in all of these different areas. We have 9 nursing units. We have the adult psychiatric unit. We have the residential area. We have the memory care area. So, in all of these different places, you might have music therapy, art therapy, drama therapy, traditional counseling, in the sense that these are older adults that many of them have life transitional issues that they're working through, whether it's just the aging process itself, or dealing with chronic pain or illness, dealing with now especially not having access to their families, who can only visit under very limited outdoor protocols. So there's been a lot of concern and addressing of the concern of social isolation, depression, anxiety. So there's really, just a vast pool of need and a variety of ways that interns support the psychosocial well-being of the people that live here that we care for. It really varies depending on the part of the building or the campus that the intern is working in. Generally, they're assigned to a specific area for at least some period of time, with the possibility of rotating throughout the year. Our practicum is a year-long commitment, so it starts in the fall and it goes all the way through the end of the summer of the following year. So it's roughly a 12-month commitment, with obviously vacation time and time off and whatnot. And so typically we would maybe rotate people through different departments or areas during the course of that year, so that they could get a flavor of working with these different populations. With COVID, we've had to be more limited in that, because we're trying to limit the number of people working in multiple areas. So it's created more of a bubbling kind of an effect, if you will. But next year, hopefully, things will be in a different state. So the assignments and the referrals come basically from working in tandem with the paid life enrichment staff members and the social services workers that are assigned to these various clinical areas. And so the interns work with the team to determine what kind of groups they're going to run, with whom they're going to run them, which residents have been identified as needing more individual counseling, supportive counseling. So we basically assess the needs of the people that are living here and figure out what the best use of an intern's experience and time and energies would be. As I mentioned, we've had mostly drama therapy students, and they're typically focused on group work because of the requirements of the program. So the caseload might be in a given, if somebody's here like a full day, they might run anywhere from 2 to 3 groups, some co-led, some individually. They might see a number of residents for 30-minute, 40-minute types of counseling sessions or interventions using various arts therapy modalities. And then there's obviously time for supervision, trainings, in-services, and that kind of thing. It varies. It's not like a counseling center model where you have X number of clients. Any given day, there may be people who are in more need than others, and so there's kind of an ongoing sort of figuring out of what the best use of the resources of an intern are. But typically, they have a schedule of certain groups that they run at certain times during the day, and certain people that they might meet with during certain times of the day. Supervision right now is a combination of virtual and in person. I have a co-supervisor, Carrie Rogensky. She's also a graduate of the drama therapy program. She's president of the National Association, North American Association of Drama Therapy. And so she's been helping with supervision via Zoom. And I've been doing individual and group supervision in person. And we're kind of dividing it up depending on which side of campus, and because right now we have 3 practicum students here, and one of them is working exclusively in our residential community, and 2 are working exclusively in our skilled nursing facility. And because of COVID concerns, we cannot commingle the staffs, so we have to kind of do a combination of live and virtual to make supervision work. But we do offer both individual and group supervision. Supervision structure, which has training aspects, of course, rolled into it. We have a really vast array of clinical resources here on our campus. So, for example, our interns are meeting, I think on Monday, they're doing an in-service with our hospice care nurse, who's a specialist in palliative care, end-of-life care issues. They've had a meeting or an in-service with our psychiatric physician assistant to learn more about psychotropic medications and how people are diagnosed. So we basically try to offer, and also I do a dementia care training. I'm a certified instructor in a particular method of dementia care delivery, and we've had our interns participate in that. So throughout the year, there are different, in-services and trainings that are scheduled in addition to the supervision time, so that interns get the benefit of learning from a wide variety of professionals who they're actually working with during the day. Open-mindedness, flexibility, certainly in these difficult times. An awareness that working in a complex healthcare system like ours is challenging, and to be prepared to take on those challenges with support, of course, and mentorship. But we're looking for people who are feeling, confident and ready to work and be part of this kind of care. It's a hard time, but it's an incredibly good learning experience. And people who, my goal as a trainer, as a supervisor, is that by the time a person leaves here, they should be fully prepared to be hireable. And in fact, the first 2 interns that I brought on from CIIS both became full-time employees and worked here in both cases for over a year. Both of them have actually, one's still here and is moving back to Chicago. Another one just recently left after a full year of interning and then a full year of work to move across country. So, people don't necessarily stay forever, although we do have a lot of people that have worked here for a long time in our organization. But this is a place where we're looking to bring people in as interns who are groomable and have potential to be our next generation of therapists that work for the organization. And that's actually been the case. So I'd say the qualities are, being eager, being bright, being curious, being, somewhat independent. Obviously, when you're starting an internship, you need a lot more structure than maybe 3 or 6 months into it, in terms of independence and autonomy and whatnot. But yeah, it's a place where you're going to be dealing with life and death issues. It's a place where loss is certainly going to be a theme. It's a place where there's a lot of celebration of life when we're able to do things under normal times. Typically, we have big programs with creative arts festivals and We do talent shows with the residents and staff, and all kinds of really fun and arts related programming. That's really what I've developed here. A lot of that we've had to kind of buckle down on and keep much smaller than usual due to COVID. But this is an exciting place to be with a lot of potential. So I think that that's what I'm looking for in an intern, somebody who really wants to work, first of all, with this population, older adults. Again, within the older adult population itself, there's a lot of variety within our campus. But that's got to be a strong primary interest. And yeah, just some enthusiasm to stretch their skills that they've learned in school and to really begin to dive in and utilize those skills with real people who need help. Well, again, this year being so unusual, I'd say that, there's probably been some challenge in terms of just having to kind of pivot and adapt on the fly, to changing circumstances within our campus. Like, we've had very, very good success with COVID prevention, and we have only had 2 community-acquired cases of COVID. And this is unbelievable since, this is like almost a year into it. But there are times where we've had to put a unit on isolation, and so a practicum student, we wouldn't want them to be exposed in any way, so we would take them from where they've been working and we assign them elsewhere, and they all get tested regularly as part of our protocol. We do weekly COVID testing for everybody, and that includes the interns. So there's been some challenge around that. That's particular to these circumstances this year. But overall, I'd say that challenges are just learning how to navigate through a complex system and learning how to build relationships with multiple constituencies. You're talking about nursing, social services, occupational therapists, physical therapists. There's a lot of different people that work in this kind of an environment. So I think that that is a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge. Like I said before, people that come here to do a training should leave here fully prepared and able to be in a well-paid position as a therapist in this kind of an environment. Well, this is an expanding organization. We're already one of the largest in the state of California, and we're actually growing because we haven't even opened our community center model. So I came here after 20 years in Sutter Health, which was, to me, a very rigid kind of a system. And, coming over here 2 years ago, I found myself in a position to do a lot of things with creative license. And this is the kind of environment where if you have a good idea and you brainstorm it with people and get support for the idea, whether it's a certain kind of program or intervention or, there's really a willingness to be flexible and open to new ideas and programming, to really support the psychosocial well-being of our community. So, I think it's a very exciting place to work, lots of opportunities for growth and employment. So I love it here. It's not easy every day, that's for sure. It's hard work, but it's a place where you will learn, grow, develop, and be successful if you apply yourself and be able to have a job. Maybe here, maybe elsewhere, but be trained, be really prepared for the real world.